G'day, I'm Sean and welcome back to the CarExpert Podcast. It's another week. We're not talking about VFAX the whole episode this week. I know that hurts some of you a little bit and I do apologize, but for those who liked it, thank you very much. We will try and find a nice little blend of in between going forward. But as always, sitting next to me, James Wong. How are you, mate?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I am good. I'm quite tired, actually. I literally got off the plane from Bathurst about an hour and a half ago before recording this. So we're going to talk about that in a second. But Max, you've come back due to a lot of popular demand, as it turns out.
What can I say? I mean,
hopefully something.
No, great show. Number 2, ready to get going.
Excited. Well, we're going to talk about an interesting experience you've had in a Subaru a little bit later on. We're going to be talking about the new hybrid or maybe hybrid LandCruiser. We'll explain that shortly. And James is going to talk about what it's like to drive the first ever electrified Corvette.
I believe it is. It's also first all-wheel drive Corvette.
And for God's sacrilege. All right. we'll get into all of that. First, I just want to talk about, I was at Bathurst on the weekend, had a very good look at the new Toyota Supra car, because I don't think anyone's come up with anything better for it yet. And this is just a clay model, but I tell you what, it looks really cool. The proportions actually look really good. Like it's kind of like if someone took the road going Supra, just made it slightly bigger and then put a massive wing on the back, which I suppose a lot of people do with Supras anyway.
Kind of, yeah. And they're slotting a big V8 under the bonnet.
Well, they're finally putting the right engine in it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it looks really cool, but I'm curious, like, to you guys, as you're not, I know Max is like a Formula One fan, you're not really that big based on racing either way. Does the Supra and Toyota going into V8 supercars really mean much to you guys?
I guess like my question is how meaningful is it going to be and what does it sort of preview for that product moving forward? Because a lot of these kinds of projects sort of, you know, historically motorsport sort of has things that trickle down into production vehicles. And so for Toyota to go to all this effort to engineer a V8 powered Supra race car, does that mean that there's potentially a V8 Supra in the works, or are we going to see some of these racing technologies make it to the production car? We don't really know, but it just seems like a really big investment for a vehicle that doesn't actually exist technically in their product portfolio. So I just find that interesting. So it'd be good to see where they go with it.
I mean, it seems like Toyota are doing a bit of a push globally in terms of motorsport, and I guess it's just sport in general. They sponsored the Olympics this year, moving into V8 supercars. Max, they're moving into Formula One.
Once again,
yes. They're going back to Formula One.
Almost. Well, not as fully fledged as they were last time, but, you know, still, you know, getting their foot in the door. And yeah, you're right. Like, they are making big steps in terms of motorsport and that sort of stuff, and they've been involved in rally and endurance racing for a long time anyway. But I think it's just cool to see the Supra, or see that a Supra will be racing in Australia again, because I know they race it in a Super GT in Japan as well. But to have like a fully fledged Toyota GR-backed Supra in Australia, I'm just really interested to see how it stacks up against, you know, the Fords and the Chevys.
Well, we won't have to wait too long. 2026, it will be here. But what will be here sooner is an electrified LandCruiser. So let's dive into this because, I'm gonna stick with calling it an electrified LandCruiser. It's a hybrid Lexus LX700h.
Yes.
Now, before we get
H or H?
H doesn't matter. We're appeasing. We appeal to everyone around the world. Speak for everyone. What the hell does the 700 stand for?
I actually don't know.
Okay, cool. Right. It does have a 700mm wading depth though, right?
It does have a 700mm wading depth. I don't know if that corresponds to the name though, because I would feel that the 500D and the 600 petrol would have similar, if not higher wading depths than the name suggests.
Well, look, I can tell it doesn't have a 7-litre engine in it,
no.
Unfortunately. So tell us, what is the running gear they're actually putting in this to differentiate it from a drivetrain perspective as opposed to the standard LX600, which is the regular petrol Lexus?
So Lexus hasn't revealed absolutely everything yet, but from what we can gather, the 700H is a hybrid based on the 600 drivetrain. So it uses the same 3.4-litre twin turbo as the LX600, and it's basically sandwiches a motor generator with a clutch in between the engine and the 10-speed automatic transmission. And basically it will be able to drive in EV mode at low speeds and also assist the engine under, you know, higher performance applications. It's interesting though, because Lexus has made sure that there's sort of redundancies in the system as well, because these kind of cars, you know, I think the LX is fairly popular in places like the Middle East where they go off-road and, you know, the conditions are quite harsh. So it's actually the first Lexus hybrid to have an alternator and starter motor in case of the hybrid system failing. And it also means that you can still start the petrol engine without using like the integrated starter generators that you get in conventional hybrid systems. There's also a waterproof AC inverter in there, and depending on market, you'll be able to get an external power outlet that can put out between 1,500 and 22,400 watts, but that's all market dependent. We still don't know whether we'll get that. There's a 700 millimeter weighting depth, so it's the Lexus hybrid with the highest weighting depth, but that's probably not much to go by given, I don't think an NX or an RX will be going that far off-road. And they haven't revealed power or torque outputs, but we imagine that it will be more powerful than the 305 kilowatt, 650 newton meters that the twin-turbo V6 makes on its own. And it appears that this is basically a development on the system that was debuted in the Tundra not long ago, which is on the same platform.
That was going to be my next question. So we have Tundra now. We have all the specs from that. And, and it's basically the same thing. And it's been out in the States for ages and people trust it. So this is essentially that going into the Lexus, which shares a platform underneath as the Tundra and the LandCruiser 300 series and the Lexus GX and new Prado 250. I think they're all the same car.
There's a few variations on this platform, and I think what it means is that this is probably our closest look yet at what a hybrid LandCruiser 300 could look like, given the LX and the LandCruiser 300 are very, very closely linked in terms of their platforms, technology, even right down to dimensions. They're not that different. So I guess if this is coming out now or soonish, I imagine Toyota is probably very closely behind, following with the hybridized LandCruiser.
So that raises the question, doesn't it? Because traditionally LandCruiser has had a petrol and a diesel option in the big one. So 100 series, 200, now 300. There is no petrol option currently in the 300 series.
In Australia.
In Australia, yes. In Australia. We should stress that. But, I mean, do you think this lends hope? Do you think that the reason they haven't got one yet is because this is what they're angling for, or is it too early to say?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, and maybe Max can jump in a sec, but I think what this provides is perhaps a window into what we might get from them later on. I think what Toyota's doing for its heavier duty product is maybe having the option of one or the other. And so if the petrol version wasn't suitable for our market for whatever reason, I would imagine, given how much interest there is in Toyota hybrids at the moment, if there was an option like this for those people who A, don't like diesel, or B, spend a lot of time driving in the city, this will cut down your fuel consumption and emissions by quite a bit and probably be a little bit more refined, while also offering the same capability that the regular one does. So I reckon this will be a really cool opportunity. I'll be interested to see how Toyota goes with that, because we might see that other markets like the Middle East and other parts of the world get priority over the hybrid one. It's what we're seeing with the Prado at the moment. So it'll be, it's sort of up in the air still because there's nothing really confirmed from Toyota yet, but I guess we'll see how they go.
So Max, I'm curious what you think of this. Lexus have launched this, let's just say, we'll stick with saying, for argument's sake, it's a hybrid LandCruiser.
Sure, yep. Patrol
have just announced their new car that's coming in, out soon overseas, but we're here in a couple of years. Do you think that Nissan, this is going to be a push for Nissan to get their act together and get a hybrid system going in the Patrol, or do you think that there's going to be enough of a separation in the market that they'll be able to both coexist in Australia?
Look, I think the big thing is they're different options. They've always been very strong competitors, and competing. Whether people go for the Patrol or go for the LandCruiser, it's one of those things that, it's just brand preference comes into it as well. But given how, heavy Toyota is sort of investing in their hybrids and making sure all their petrol cars are going in that sort of direction while still keeping other options like diesels and pure petrols as well, I think for the sort of competition that the Patrol provides, I think it would make sense for it to bring out some kind of hybrid option there. We know that Nissan's got their e-power system on the Qashqai and the X-Trail in Australia at the moment. So maybe adding something like that to the Patrol could open some more doors for, people wanting a big hybrid off-road car. Whether that works in the same sort of way in the Patrol as it does in the Qashqai and the X-Trail is something that I'm sure they would have to figure out. But in terms of being competitive and staying, relevant alongside the LandCruiser, I think that is something that they would have to look into if a hybrid LandCruiser does actually end up coming from Toyota as well.
Okay, well, it's a matter of time, and I suppose it comes down to what people are willing to buy. So leave a comment, let us know, would you buy a hybrid LandCruiser? Would you prefer to just stick with diesel? And does the LX700H interest you? God only knows how much it's going to cost. I can't imagine it's going to be cheap.
No, I don't think so. I think the LX600 costs anywhere around $140,000 at its cheapest in Australia. So and the most expensive one in that 4-seat ultra luxury trim's like 210 grand. Yeah. So I imagine there'd be a premium on it, but people will be willing to pay for it, I'm sure.
That's it. All right, we'll wait to see. Okay, now Max, you've recently been driving a Subaru STi. A new Subaru STi, right? Tell us about it.
Yes. No, not really. Look, STi doesn't exist effectively at the moment, as we knew it at least. You know, WXTi has been dead since 2021. And I mean, Subaru is one of those brands I've always been like top 2 brands even that I've been interested in. And, you know, to have something with the STi badge come back, it's a Forester, to start with, to preface that. It's a Forester. They call it the STi Sport to sort of differentiate it from the full-fat STi that we're used to. It's a little bit underwhelming, if I'm honest. You know, Is
that because like they didn't put a big enough turbo on it, or?
Well, there's no turbo.
Oh, so it's not really an STi at all, then, is it?
The turbo equivalent of an air guitar, we'll call it that way. But look, I mean, it's under the skin, it's pretty much exactly the same as the top spec 2.5i S Forester that you can buy at the moment, except for STi tuned suspension dampers. So they're just a little bit stiffer, a little bit sportier and harsher on rough roads, but that's a byproduct of that. And otherwise, it's pretty much just cosmetic. There's an STi badge on the back. The interior's got red upholstery, or Bordeaux is what they're calling it. Bordeaux. Two-tone upholstery, and there's some STi badges like on the instrument cluster and on the seats as well, and that's pretty much all you get. So for something wearing an STi badge, I mean, I would expect something a little bit more, to be honest.
Yeah, so they took a Forester, didn't give it any extra power and made it less comfortable. Is really what you're getting at with that one.
It's the way it sounds, doesn't it?
So, I mean, this is kind of a thing. Okay, look, I'm not a Subaru tragic by any stretch. I like the other Blue Oval brand more than Subaru. But I mean, I guess as someone, and I know you're a big fan of Subarus and WRX and World Rally and all that sort of stuff that comes with it.
Yeah.
Does it feel like a kind of a bit of a slap in the face to be putting STi badges on things like this when it's not really that performance vehicle anymore?
It does a little bit. Especially because we don't have an actual STi anymore, like with any more power. Like we know we had the standard WRX, you know, with, I don't know, 200 odd kilowatts. And then you had the STi, which added 30 kilowatts on top, and it was all, you know, had a massive wing, you know, different wheels, suspension, all, you know, the works. And then this has, you know, a very sort of very minimal mechanical changes and otherwise just cosmetic. It's not exactly what Subaru fans would be after from something wearing the STi badge. And it would almost be better if, you know, it sort of went along the lines of what other brands are doing, you know, Hyundai with their N and then N line. If you had STi line, I know it's STi Sport or something, but you wouldn't know it just by looking at it. Like there's no STi Sport badge or anything specific like that, just says STi. So you think, oh, that's weird. Someone's gone out and stuck an STi badge onto the back of their Forester.
Special,
Similar to, you know, people going out and buying STi wings and putting them on their standard WRXs. It's kind of a similar vibe in my eyes. But yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, it is a nice car. The interior is very nice. You know, the Forester is a good platform to start with anyway. But for something wearing the STi badge, it doesn't really hit the spot.
All right, so I think this brings us to a bit of a bigger topic. It's something that irks me a lot, is when you get these great performance heritage things. So I'm talking BMW M, AMG, WRX STi, like those sort of things, and those badges just get slapped on cars to sell it, and you end up with a BMW 318i M, and it's like, that's not really an M car. I mean, do you think car brands are sort of diluting their own products a little bit too much now? And this is to both of you, and I know, because imagine if you bought a Polo GTI line, like it wouldn't be great, would it?
Well, yes. There's so many different examples of it, and I think the measure of the success is how it's implemented. Using, you know, BMW and Mercedes have probably been doing this for the longest out of all of the manufacturers. And I think where it's gotten to now is, especially in Australia, where everyone wants to look like they have the sporty model, they've now made AMG line and M Sport the standard package, and there's very little differentiation between a base model and even like the performance models, which then makes you wonder what's the point of getting an M3 or an M340i when a 320i with the M Sport pack can almost look exactly the same. So I think that when there's clear differentiation, not to the point where the line or the look packs look bad, but still making sure that people who are investing in getting the proper performance stuff still have something that is clearly differentiable as the performance product, as opposed to everything sort of looking same. And in the case of the STi, not having a clear thing saying that's not actually an STi, I think is a bit of maybe a, what do you call it? I'm trying to think of a sporting term now. Gone blank. But it's just not a great idea. And it's actually really disappointing because in Japan they have a very similar model, but with an updated turbocharged engine. It's not quite Forester STi of old, but it has a lot more torque and would probably be a little bit zippier. And so that engine may have been a great opportunity for Subaru to introduce a turbocharged powertrain back, but not quite full fat performance. But yeah, it just seems like even the one that we have is like in a metallic white, and without
like a rental car.
Yeah, like genuinely, unless you know what the wheels are different, it generally doesn't look that different to any other Forester on the road. So again, it doesn't really do anything.
Now, okay, so I think we all agree that the badge packs are a bit meh. But what about when they're reviving names of old? Now, and I'll start with Max on this one because you have a classic car that you drive around in your own garage, don't you?
Yes, I do. I have a Toyota Celica, which thankfully hasn't been turned into a mid-size crossover yet.
Yet. There's still time.
Look, yeah, in a similar vein, like we've had the Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross for a long time, which I'm sure even to me, I'd struggle to make the link between the old Eclipse and the Fast and Furious to the Eclipse Cross. I think, well, that's the same name, but not really, because the car is just not the same at all.
The Hunchback of Notre Dame versus Usain Bolt,
in some sense, sure. And then we've seen the new Ford Capri as well, which is a electric SUV thing, and things like that. Like people love those classic cars. Like they think, oh, I had a Ford Capri. Like, oh, that was awesome back in the day. Well, now it's this, and it's like, well, hang on, that's not what I remembered it being at all. And even using names like Mustang, like the Mach-E, like it's not the same vein as the Mustang at all. Like you wouldn't imagine a Mach-E pedaling back to your supercars stories. You wouldn't imagine a Mach-E going around there alongside a Camaro or something like that. Like
I imagine it go around it wouldn't make a Bathurst 1000, it'd be like a Bathurst 120 maybe, but I don't think that'd be out of electricity.
There is that rally version that looks really cool.
That's true.
Yeah,
there
it
is.
looks cool. It doesn't do anything cool, but
yeah, look, and there's definitely a reason to do it. Like it's a recognized name, but a lot of the feedback that we've seen, especially on the Capri, is sure, it might actually be like a good car. Like there might actually not be anything wrong with it. We don't know yet, obviously, but if it had a different name, people would find it a lot more appealing, if you know what I mean.
I think that we have the perfect case of it in Australia with the Commodore. And I think that if there's ever a study on why not to name a new car an old car name, it was the ZB Commodore. Great car, no one bought them because the name was no good. So what do you guys at home think? Leave a comment, let us know. Should car makers revive classic cars with classic sports car name for electric SUVs, or should they just leave them alone and let them be? Leave a comment, let us know. All right, James. It is time to talk. And this is like the one of the things I never thought I'd talk to you about on the podcast. This is something that Max's predecessor and I would talk about on the podcast, and you'd sort of sit there and be like, "I have a golf," but you went to a racetrack.
I did.
And drove a mid-engine supercar.
Yes.
Tell us everything about the Chevy Corvette E-Ray.
Well, we can talk about it, but I can also throw to myself in the car now, and I'll do a very quick intro to it, and then we can chat more about it after. Hi there, we're at Sandown Raceway driving the new Chevrolet Corvette E-Ray. It's got a 6.2 litre V8 hybrid with over 480 kilowatts and 800 Newton meters, but it's also got a battery and electric motor that gives you a stealth mode. So I'm going to start off this drive in electric mode now. So stealth mode allows you to creep along in silence, basically, as you can tell now, and you can travel at speeds up to 72 kilometers an hour. So as I roll out onto the straight now, there's just no noise. So stealthy as. And once I get onto the straight, I can give it a little bit of a squeeze, and it might just take a moment for the V8 to kick in. And there you go. So you still got that signature Corvette V8 sound there. So with all that power and torque, the Corvette E-Ray can actually go from 0 to 100 quicker than the new Z06 track car. So it's actually claimed to do 2.9 seconds 0 to 100. But we're about to do a 0 to 100 test, and I reckon we might get it a little bit quicker. Foot on the brake, accelerator down, and go. Oh, Jesus. Alrighty, so that says 2.4 seconds. Half a second quicker than the claim. That's pretty bloody quick. So before I sign off here, I'll just give you a quick little impression of like what it's like to drive. You might think that because it's a hybrid it's boring or whatever, but it's still really fun to drive on track. I've driven this back to back with the Z06, and I actually prefer this one because it's a little bit more pliant, so you don't get all the communication of the bumps on the road. And being the 6.2 litre V8 behind me, it's mid-engine, remember, you can really lean onto it and it just sounds awesome. So stay tuned for the full review on the site, and back to you guys in the studio.
Sorry, I'm just finding it really interesting that you're sitting here saying that the hybrid Corvette is better than the Z06, which basically has a race car engine in it.
Look, they were both great in their own way, and I think what I found driving them on track, because I had a very heavily options Z06 with like all the track stuff on it. Like, it's an awesome track weapon, and I reckon it would give a 911 GT3 a good run in terms of like engagement and that kind of thing. But what the E-Ray does is that it's so secure and it's so fast. Like, I did a 0 to 100 run in like 2.4 seconds, which A, is faster than the claim, but also B, just the way it sings to you with that V8, and then you get almost like this supercharger whine from the electric motor. It's just so versatile. It's faster. It's the fastest one. It's got 488 kilowatts and like 800 and something Newton meters from the system.
Wow.
It's got so much power. And when you think about, it's also 60 grand cheaper than the Z06. So at, roughly 280 grand, that kind of performance you just cannot get from anything else in the market. It's like half the price of even a Huracan, and that's not even around anymore. So, a car that can do sub 3 seconds, 0 to 100 with that sort of wide body mid-engine supercar look. It's got a wonderful Napa leather line interior with so much carbon. You've got options up the wazoo to personalize it to your heart's content. It was just a really, really cool, both of them were really cool. But I think that the E-Ray probably appeals to more people, especially in Australia where we don't have, autobahns or anything like that. You might be lucky to take a car like that to a track day. If you're going to be driving this as a daily or, semi-regularly, the E-Ray is probably the one to get. And I have a couple of Instagram videos on the CarExpert profile where sort of demonstrating some of these things. So the stealth mode that's on the E-Ray, you can basically switch it into this mode, start it up, and it's basically starts up as an EV. And you can drive it up to 72 kilometers an hour. I can't remember how much that is in miles per hour, but up to 72 kilometers per hour in EV mode. And it'll do it for about 4 to 6 kilometers. So basically the premise behind that is to say you don't have to wake up your neighbors or whatever by firing up this V8 powered supercar in your driveway or in your apartment car park. You can sort of slink away silently and then fire everything up as you leave.
Annoy someone else's neighbors.
Yeah, annoy someone else's neighbors, yeah.
Okay, so what was it actually like, well, speaking of annoying neighbors, belting a V8 Corvette around Sandown? Because that definitely would have annoyed Sandown's neighbours.
Yes, well, I didn't speak to any of them. It's probably for the best. But both of them, are very, very loud, very raucous vehicles. There's a very distinct personality difference between the two cars. The Z06 has like a race car engine, as you said, so it's almost very smooth sounding, very high pitched, very free revving. The gearing's a little bit different as well. So I had to be a little bit more particular with the shift points, because I think compared to the E-Ray, which I drove first, getting into the Z06 and coming onto that main straight of Sandown, I think I hit the limiter by accident because I wasn't paying attention, and it hit the red line much quicker than I thought it was going to. So, and much firmer. It communicates the road or the surface of the track much more than the E-Ray does. I felt that under heavy braking coming down from like 250 clicks on the main straight, it sort of dragged across a little bit, and the instructor was going like, oh, pull right, and I was trying to wrestle it to come back. But yeah, they're both very cool and very loud. There was nice to sit in pit lane as they were sort of going past because it sounded really good.
Very cool. All right. Well, I'll throw this question out to both of you guys. I'm curious. What do you think would be the better option? Ferrari, was it 296? There's the hybrid version of the Ferrari now.
Yeah.
The Corvette, was it C8 E-Ray? I think it is. Is that what it's called now?
Well, they just call E-Ray, but yeah, the C8's the generation, and then E-Ray is the
E-Ray, or the hybrid Lamborghini that I can't remember the name of. The Revolting?
The Revuelto is the Huracan replacement, isn't it? What's the other one? What's the Huracan replacement? I can't even remember what it's called.
Okay, so what are you picking? Are you going Italian, European? You're going American? Or McLaren maybe? You know, what if this was?
Oh yeah, like an Artura.
If this is your money on the table, where would you be landing with your options?
Look, personally, I'm really interested for the Corvette SUV.
Coming next summer.
No, given James's glowing review just then, I think it's hard to look past the E-Ray. Like, it's such a unique offering, and the Corvette's always been like. The older generations I'm not as big of a fan of, but these new ones are so mean and aggressive looking, and they're just so like, not to say that, I love the American way of doing things, but like, it's just like, it's such a cool car. And, given the opportunity to experience one or even own one, I guess, without having to worry about annoying my neighbors unless I wanted to, the Corvette E-Ray would have to be my pick.
Okay, so Max would take the E-Ray. James, what about you?
Oh, I don't know if I can choose out of those four. They're all really cool, and I'm yet to drive all of them properly, so I'd probably need to get back to you. But I think what the Corvette does, it's amazing value relatively. It's 300K is not a small amount of money for anybody, but given it's less than half of the money of some of those other rivals that we mentioned, just so much car. And the E-Ray gets the wide body rear as opposed to the conventional Stingray, so it looks a lot more substantial. And the cars that we had on the launch. They're quite customizable. There's a lot of different colors, stripes, interior options that you can get. You can even get Carbon Revolution wheels. So little Australian link there. Yeah. So I think they're like a $25,000 option, but they're still.
Well, that money goes into the families of Geelong.
Yeah, and you can get them in a couple of different variations. So there were some on the day that had the exposed carbon fiber look. You can also get them painted. But there was one that I took a particular liking to, which was like silver with blue racing stripes with like polished, almost chrome wheels. And it kind of reminded me of like the old Le Mans homologation specials of like the 90s. It just looks so cool and very, very sleek and almost understated for something so loud. So yeah, I was pretty enamored by it.
There you go. You heard it here first, folks. The car expert panel would pick an American supercar over a European supercar. And I don't blame you because I would too. So, well, it wouldn't be a CarExpert podcast if we didn't do our picks of the week. So let's start with Max. What is your pick of the week this week, Max?
Well, you'll have to indulge me for a little moment, but my pick this week is Leah Block, the daughter of the late Ken Block, of course, who made her Subaru Rally debut last week in the American Rally Association with the Subaru American Subaru Rally team. I don't know the official name, but
Subaru USA, but yeah.
They race Subarus, is the point. So yeah, she was filling in for Brandon Semenuk, who has already wrapped up the American Championship, won. It was the last round of the season, so he was going off to do Red Bull Rampage, mountain biking and that sort of stuff, which is very cool. So that gave Leah Block the opportunity to jump behind the wheel. And yeah, it's, very cool to see the Ken Block lineage, carrying on similar routes to what he's doing. She's very involved in F1 Academy and all that sort of stuff as well. Unfortunately, it did end with her in between two trees on the car's side, which is unfortunate. But look, it was everyone was okay, of course. But still, yeah, very cool to see another Block behind the wheel of a Subaru.
It had to happen eventually, didn't it? She's been doing, the F1 Academy. She's been doing the Extreme E stuff. So I think it was a matter of time till she ended up in the rally car. 10 points, though, for landing it sideways between two trees. I think that's definitely...
And I did see a video of it as well, because some fans or marshals or whatever, they walked over and she asked if they could push the car back over so she'd carry on, but wedged between two trees, it wasn't going to happen.
I think that's also technically outside assistance, so I don't know whether that's allowed.
They do that all the time. Yeah, it's fine.
James, what about you? What's your pick this week?
I came across a really funny video of someone making a mockery of vehicle ASMR videos. So I know that that's been a trend on the internet in the last couple of years, all this ASMR stuff where you focus so much on the sounds of things. And, in the case of cars, it's not often slurping noodles or soups or anything like that, but it's like, playing with buttons or the sounds that the car makes when you switch on certain systems. And this guy gets into I'm not sure if it's his Maseratis or a friend's, but he starts like just making an absolute mockery of it, and it's quite funny, which I saw this morning. So that's probably my pick.
I have a suggestion for you. Maybe you can start a channel where you slurp noodles in different cars to see whether there's a different sound.
Oh, there might be too much of a following for that.
There we go. Yeah, there's a niche. There's someone for every niche, you know. So, mine has to be. I mean, I know Bathurst this year was the most boring Bathurst in the history of Bathurst, but Brodie Kostecki and Todd Hazelwood winning in that Chico-inspired Erebus Camaro was really, really cool. And just like the fact that I think the big pick is that all 26 cars, actually no, all 25 of the 26 cars across the finish line, one crashed out. No mechanical dramas, like 1,000 kilometers, these cars all absolutely belted. I think that's credit to how good race cars and how good racing is getting these days, that these cars can go for 1,000 kilometers flat out, because there's a lot of people whose cars don't go very long flat out or not flat out and they break down. So credit to these high performance machines for doing that, but mostly credit to those drivers because it was bloody hot in Bathurst. Brodie Kostecki was really crook in the lead up to it, as in like quite a bad stomach bug. And to go out and win a 1,000-kilometer race, I mean, I wouldn't win any kilometer race if I was sick, let alone 1,000.
Maybe he cooked it out of him while he was
maybe,
running.
Maybe. But yes, hopefully next year's Bathurst is a little bit more interesting. But F1 does return this weekend.
It does.
In Texas.
With Toyota-branded Haas cars.
Yes.
So that'll be fun.
But no Daniel Ricciardo, unfortunately.
No, I did forget about that and you've ruined my week.
I know, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I figured we'd start off strong and then I'd just bring you straight back down.
That's all right. Piastri's still going strong, so we'll go for him. Melbourne boy.
That's it. I mean, yeah. What do you think? McLaren going to take the title this year?
They're definitely in for it. I think their worst enemy is themselves. So we'll see how they go.
All right. And James is going to make sense of everything that we've just said when the next season of Drive to Survive comes out.
Yes. Viva la Ferrari.
All right. Well, Max, thanks for taking the time out of your day to come and chat to us.
Thank you.
James, as always, well, you didn't have a choice. You have to take the time out of your day to come and chat to us.
Pleasure is all mine.
But thank you, everyone, for watching. And leave a comment. Let us know what should we talk about next week. What Corvette or Ferrari or Lamborghini or McLaren, which one would you pick? I forgot to ask that before, so do leave a comment, let us know. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, press follow on whatever audio streaming platform you're listening to, and leave us a review if you haven't. 5 stars would be very much appreciated. But until next time, have a good one.